Right now, there is a map in classrooms across the world that is lying to you. Look at this standard map projection. On it, Greenland appears slightly larger than the entire continent of Africa. In reality, Africa is 14 times bigger. It could swallow the United States, China, India, and most of Europe combined, and still have room left over. This distortion happened because of a specific technical choice made 400 years ago, a decision that had everything to do with navigation and eventually everything to do with power. Once you understand the math and the motives behind that choice, the maps we use every day stop looking like objective geography and start looking like engineered tools used by empires to shape our understanding of the world. Long before humans could view the Earth from above, they were already drawing the edges of human knowledge. In those early days, everything past the known horizon was treated as terror. The oldest known map, carved into a Babylonian clay tablet nearly 3,000 years ago, surrounds the known world with a physical ring of water. Beyond that ring, the makers etched a simple warning: places where the sun is not seen. Centuries later, medieval Europe took a different approach. Instead of focusing on the terrifying edges, they used maps to assert total dominance over the center of the page. The most influential medieval maps were drawn for the church. These TO maps placed Jerusalem in the dead center of the world. Surrounding it, Asia, Europe, and Africa are arranged like a cross. It wasn't the geographic middle, it needed to be the spiritual middle. Most people viewing these parchments would never leave their village. They functioned as instruments of belief, hardwiring into every viewer exactly where salvation, civilization, and ultimate authority supposedly began. During the Age of Exploration, a piece of paper gained the authority to determine who owned an ocean. Maps evolved from spiritual art into literal weapons. In 1494, Spain and Portugal drafted the Treaty of Tordesillas. They drew a single vertical line down the Atlantic Ocean, dividing the entire unexplored world between just two crowns. With a stroke of ink on a European table, the existence of every nation, tribe, and civilization already living on the land that line cut through was legally erased. Millions of people woke up newly claimed by kings they had never heard of. When these conquering powers encountered vast territories they knew absolutely nothing about, they employed a second tactic to maintain their appearance of authority. European mapmakers filled unexplored regions of Africa and the Americas with fabricated rivers, invented mountain ranges, and imaginary kingdoms. A blank space on a map looked like weakness. Since empires could not afford to look ignorant, they simply invented reality rather than admit they didn't have it. In 1569, Flemish cartographer Gerardus Mercator solved a massive logistical problem for global shipping, keeping compass directions perfectly straight for navigating sailors. To make those straight nautical angles work on a flat piece of paper, Mercator had to mathematically stretch the landmasses nearest to the poles. Flattening a 3D sphere into a rectangle forces the geography to stretch, inflating anything far from the equator. The side effect? Europe and North America appear massive, while South America and Africa shrink dramatically relative to their true size. Then there's the compass orientation. Placing north at the top of the page is a decision, not a law of nature. Space has no up or down. For centuries, ancient Islamic cartographers and Chinese mapmakers natively oriented their worldviews toward the south. North up and the Mercator scale became our global standard because European naval empires dominated global trade and simply printed the most maps. For wooden sailing ships in the 1500s, this geographical distortion was a useful tool. The problem began when the Mercator projection moved off the decks of ships and into the hands of the public. It moved into atlases and classrooms, taking over the collective imagination of billions of schoolchildren over the next 4 centuries. Generation after generation absorbed an unspoken hierarchy, implicitly learning that the colonizing nations of the Northern Hemisphere were physically larger and therefore more important than the nations they colonized. This perspective survived for centuries, precisely because the distortion was hidden inside an object that looked like objective, unassailable science. Every time you look at a digital map today, you are seeing the 500-year-old fingerprint of the empires that first held the pen.